about to join Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience, for a weekly situation report, or SITREP. 18 hours a day, Denise Simon lives her life as an Intel Analyst. 18 hours a day, Don Neuen lives his life in the world of rock and roll. 1 hour each day, Neuen receives a daily SITREP from Simon. Welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report. Fasten your seatbelt. You're now in Don Neuen's car, and he is calling in for his SITREP.
Smello.
What's up, Niecy?
You!
That's right. It's your buddy Don calling in for his SITREP. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's Drive Time Situation Report with the ever-stellar Denise Simon, and on the other end of this conversation is Don Neuen. Now, unlike any other radio show that you're probably listening to, the Drive Time SITREP is basically a conversation. It's a phone call that I make to Denise Simon. We had one last night. We've had one multiple times a week, probably, Denise, for the last 6 years now?
Yeah, probably that.
I mean, it's been a long time. At any rate, one time a week on my drive home, we record the conversation that Denise and I have. Last week, for the first time, Denise, I said a 4-letter word that I'm not allowed to say on the radio. Do you remember me doing that?
Uh-huh, I do.
I also had to go back in and find that one 4-letter,
that one moment
word. Yep.
Uh-huh.
And what's funny about it, Denise, is I remember where I was, like, geographically. I was sitting at the exit ramp after getting off of I-20 West to drop down Highway 61 to go home. And we started talking about Schumer, or I think it was Schumer that we were talking about. And I'll be darned if the S word didn't pop out of my mouth.
Tisk, tisk, tisk.
Thank goodness that it's not live radio. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's SITREP. Denise Simon, in just a moment, is going to timestamp this show. We do that so that if anything comes out of our mouths, especially her mouth, that is way ahead of the curve, we got a digital print. We got a timestamp of that, because many of the things that Denise Simon talks about with me are slightly ahead of the curve, sometimes as much as a year or two.
Oh.
But at any rate, hey, listen, if it's truthful, it's not bragging, right, Denise?
Yeah, okay.
Yes, it is. Come on. You
Okay.
don't need to be humble. You do not need to be humble about your greatness. All right, and plus, I'm the best manager you could ever ask for, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly. All right, so what do you say we get after it? To use the words that Chris Cuomo has stolen from me, what do you say we just get after it, Denise? What time is it? On what date? In what year? For our Lord.
It's 8:47 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on the 25th of September in the year of our Lord 2018. And as an aside, it happens to be my number 2 son's birthday.
Whoa, the big BD. How old is he?
33.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Can we say your number 2 son's name?
His name is Reed, and a bunch of his friends took him to something called Vertical Ventures today in St. Pete so they could do all these rock climbing walls, and they are amazing, amazing walls. So that's how he spent his afternoon, at least part of the afternoon.
Well, there you go. What's it called? Vertical Adventures?
Vertical, I think so. Vertical Ventures.
Well, all right. Well, I would like to issue a challenge to one Matt Bruce that he get out there, and I want to see him climb that wall. Climb that wall, Matt. All right. So at any rate, happy birthday to Reed. 32 big years old. Number
33.
2 son. How old?
33
years. 33. My bad. I robbed him of a year. Look at me.
33.
All right. So if Reed is 33, how old is Andy?
38.
Wow, Denise, that makes you really old.
I am old. I'm almost embarrassed to say 38. He
That
might be.
You know, that really puts things into perspective, Grandma.
It does.
Holy cow. Holy moly. Yeah,
No,
you know what?
no wayward children. No, divorces. None of that. So, I mean, I'm kind of envious of those that are out there that are legitimate grandparents, because I'm not convinced I'm going to ever be one.
Well, you will be, but you know what? With your 2 sons, by the time you're a grandmother, they're going to be prepared to raise and support and take care of their children and their family. And it's not going to be a situation where Meemaw or Mamaw or whatever they're called is supporting and watching the children, the grandchildren, while the children are sitting around playing with their iPhones.
Indeed not. They may come. My older son may come to your house because he's in your territory, but my
That's fine. He can come to my house and he can go get a job, and
he's
he can
got
take
one.
care of his. Well,
he's got 2.
I'm talking about after he decides to start popping out babies.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, you know, your kids are welcome at my house anytime. You know that. Hell, for that
Thank
matter,
you.
so are you, and so
Thank
is your wonderful husband.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right. So, having said all this, Denise, I do need to ask you a couple of questions, because I do see the entire climate changing. The rules are changing. And so the first question that I want to ask you is, I want you to go back to your days in high school. I believe, where were you, in Kansas?
No.
Where were you? Where? I thought you went to high school in Kansas. Where did you go to high school?
I was actually did a couple of stints, different schools. I was in early high school in Oklahoma, and then
I knew it was out there. Tornado Alley. I got it.
And then I went to 3 different other high schools in Texas.
Okay, so you were skirting Kansas. All right.
Yeah,
Now,
I wouldn't do Kansas.
All right, so here's what I want you to go back to. I want you to go back to when you were maybe 15, 16, 17 years old, right in that time frame. And I need to know about all parties that you went to, and if you were engaged in any type of sexual activity at these parties that we all need to know about at this point.
That would be a big no.
10-4 on that. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. We have just interrogated, without the need of going to anything that would be associated with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We now know that Denise Simon was not promiscuous during high school.
No.
I feel better about this, Nisi.
Well, my junior and senior year, I was in a boarding school. So that changes things dramatically. And, because you got curfews and you got den mothers and you got dormitories and, all these other kinds of things. And I would say that my father was a Texan. He was a Leo, which means they have a terrible temper. And he was a Marine. You didn't want to mess with him. He's long gone. And I'm well into my senior years, and I still don't want to mess with him.
Darn right. I don't want to mess with you, much less your dad. And I know, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to disclose Denise Simon's husband's name on the air, but I'm going to tell you this. He doesn't mess with her either.
No.
And neither your 2 sons, you'll kick their ass too.
Yeah, I have from time to time. Haven't done it not in a very long time, but in the shank of their early years, I was many steps ahead of them. I had a bigger network.
What are you talking about? You're ahead of the curve all the time, including where your kids think you're standing. Now, there's one other thing I need to give all of our beloved listeners a a visual here because radio is the theater of their mind, as we've said before. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go back to Christmas, either last year or the year before.
Stop.
I don't remember when it was. No. We're going to do this, Denise. We're going to do it, Denise. Okay, last year. Here's what I want you to envision. Now,
Christmas Eve.
Okay, I'm going to describe Denise Simon to all of you people that have not ever had a chance to meet her or see her. I'm going to guess, Denise, that you are 5'6".
Exactly.
Okay. Very athletic build, very dark skin tan because she plays tennis every day. So she's got this tennis physique going on. She's also got very long blonde hair, very long. Last time I saw you, Nisi, if you were standing there with like a pair of jeans on, it would be inches from your waistline. Is that still pretty accurate?
Yep.
Okay. Now, I need you guys to envision Denise Simon, 5'6", athletic build, tennis physique, bod, dark skin, long blonde hair. And I need you to envision Denise taking a pair of pantyhose, and within the pantyhose, she has put, were they grapefruits?
Yes, grapefruit.
Okay. Just one.
There's one, correct. One in the pantyhose.
Okay. She's now inserted a grapefruit inside the leg of the pantyhose. And then she has attached the pantyhose, if I'm not mistaken, to like the back of your waist of your pants, right?
Correct.
Which I believe were like tennis shorts or shorts of some kind.
I had on yoga pants.
Yoga pants, my bad. All right. So Denise is now standing there on Christmas Eve 2017.
With about 30 people in the house.
Right. All of them laughing to the point where they were needing to be wearing adult diapers or they would have peed on themselves. And Denise has this grapefruit strapped onto the back of her pants that's hanging down inches from the ground, swinging back and forth in this pair of pantyhose. Now, Denise, I've created this theater of the mind visual for our beloved listeners. Why don't you tell them what the concept was?
Well, the concept is it's a contest. And the contest is done by time, who has the best time. And so on the floor was a start point and then an end point, and that was marked off by painter's blue masking tape. And what you had to do was you had to swing the grapefruit that is pinned to your waistband so it hits the other grapefruit that's at the starting line. And you had to hit one, kind of like croquet, if you will. One grapefruit has to hit the other and move it to the end line. And you had to do it in the fastest amount of time. And well, I had prizes that night, by the way.
So. No doubt.
And
now, all right, hold on, Nisi. All right, so now, in order to, ladies and gentlemen, you got to visualize this. Now, we're going to get down to serious business here in a second. But one of the reasons that I'm going into this whole diatribe and this insanely stupid conversation that we're having with you people right now is to drive home the point of what it's like to actually watch the mainstream media every day. Because this is the kind of nonsense that makes headlines. Now, Denise, in order for you to generate the pendulum movement of this grapefruit that is suspended between your legs in a pair of pantyhose, only inches off the ground, and if I recall, at times, actually, that grapefruit, when you would gyrate your hips in the manner that you did in order to get the proper perpetual motion of this grapefruit, this pendulum motion, if you'll allow me to use that term, I think it adequately describes it. There were times when that grapefruit actually smashed into the floor. When the desired motion was that of a croquet mallet striking or a golf club hitting a golf ball. That was the objective, but there were times when that was not actually accomplished because of the of the height in which your gyrating hips were moving, there were times it would actually smash into the floor. Am I correct?
Yeah, and then if it gets offline, if it kind of goes, if you hit it wrong and it goes to the left or the right, you got to go get it, and you got to kind of go bring it back in.
and at that point, we have a serious trajectory problem, would you not say?
The entire
Ladies
time.
and gentlemen, are you visualizing this?
The best
Are you
part about
visualizing
it
little
all.
5'6" Denise Simon, 5'6", tennis body, physique, whatever you call that, long blonde hair, yoga pants, swinging a pendulum made of pantyhose and a grapefruit as she gesticulates and undulates with her hips to move another grapefruit, a separate second grapefruit across her living room floor. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the kind of stuff that the mainstream media gives you, and they will spend day after day on it until they can find someone else to talk about the swinging grapefruit.
Well, the cool thing was that my older son was filming this on his cell phone, and he was commentating the entire time, because every adult in my house that night, I think with the exception of 2, did it. And the commentary...
Did your unnamed husband do this?
He did not.
Ah!
Uh-huh.
Party pooper,
Yeah.
if you ask me, Denise.
But the commentary was funnier than probably any other part of it. In fact, I wasn't too sure that
a hilarious video.
I almost needed to call the ambulance on my next door neighbor because I thought he broke out into
having a heart attack.
Yes.
All right, well, let me ask you this, Nisi. Do you have access to that video to where, for our beloved listeners, all those would like to see it, can go find your Facebook page? Can you post it again on there?
Oh, I'd have to go back, about 10 months to go find it, but I might be able to find it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, go find Denise Simon's Facebook page. If you have not friended her, do so immediately. Denise Simon. All right? And then at some point in the next day or so, I'm trusting the fact that Denise will upload that hilarious video for all of us to enjoy again. All right, Denise, we've only got about 7 minutes here before we have to go to that.
Oh my God, we burned almost a whole
like.
segment on something like that.
But I've driven a point home to our valued listeners. This is the kind of crap that you put up with all day in and day out on the mainstream media, making up absolute stupidity and turning it into news. So, Denise, with about 6 minutes left here, let's get started.
Okay. Well, first, let me say that we'll actually talk about the Kavanaugh thing in the second part of the show. But going into the commercial, the House Republicans, just in the last 30 minutes, initiated the process to issue a subpoena for the drafted memos of Andrew McCabe, the former FBI deputy director. And that is going to the Judiciary Committee, the House Judiciary Committee. Now, those memos are what we would know to be the centerpiece of the news reports that have Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, Donald Trump, and Comey in question that came out of the New York Times article. So, Goodlatte, who is the chairman of the committee, the House Judiciary Committee, has also called for those for Rod Rosenstein to testify, and they've given him 2 days' notice that they can come in without the subpoena. If they don't, then the subpoena is going out. So there you go.
All right, 2-day notice, meaning 2 days from today or 2 days from whenever they want?
No, I would think it would be 2 days from probably tomorrow morning, because this came out about 8:30 tonight.
Now, who on the House Judiciary Committee is the equivalent of a Cory Booker or a Dianne Feinstein or a Kamala Harris from the Senate Judiciary Committee? Like, who do we need to watch on the side of the Democrats in that committee? Is Auntie Maxine on that committee?
No, not that I'm aware of.
I thought she was.
Let's see
well,
here.
Maybe you can dig that up, but I'll be curious on who's going to be throwing sand in the gears and setting up protesters to come in and all that stuff.
Well, the big thing is, I don't think it's not so much as going after Rosenstein as much as it is his memos and where they may have gone, such that the New York Times had this whole thing happening with this article that came out last week. So,
are we in agreement still that? I mean, I still believe that McCabe is at the epicenter of this whole thing.
I would agree.
And would you agree that that Rosenstein, I don't feel, is as bad of a guy as he's looking with regard to this
exactly.
New York Times article? I don't think Rosenstein, even if he was joking about it, I don't think that there was ever any intent other than being sarcastic to McCabe.
Incredulous.
With regard to the comment.
Right.
Good word. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now,
I'm glad we're still agreeing with that.
Here's who you do have on that committee. You got Zoe Lofgren. You've got Jerry Nadler, who's a disaster. And you got the ever so whatever, I don't even have a word to describe her, Sheila Jackson Lee. You got, yeah. You got Steve Cohen. You got Hank Johnson, who I think was the guy that said that Guam was going to tip
Guam,
over.
That and the fact that we had to regulate helium for birthday parties.
You got Luis Gutierrez.
Oh, Luis, yes, Luis Gutierrez.
You've got Eric Swalwell.
Yeah, he's the schmuck that ends up on Fox all the time.
Yeah, and you got this Pramila Jayapal. Now, she's the one that I really have an issue with. She's from Washington. The others, the Ted Luz, he can be neutralized. Jamie Raskin, he can be neutralized. Hakeem Jeffries, he seems to be kind of out of touch. But, yeah. Who
do you think's going to try to grandstand? The gal from Washington?
Yes. Pramila Jayapal.
Okay. Fascinating. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to this week's Drive Time SITREP. My name is Don Neuen. I'm driving on I-20, headed west to my home. On the other end of this conversation is the stellar Denise Simon, who you now know possesses a skill and a talent for swinging a grapefruit from a pair of pantyhose from between her legs, I should say. We are going to take a short break, and when we get back, no more fun and games, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get into it right here on the Drive Time SITREP.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Hi, thank you for listening. My name is Ron Phillips, and I'm the owner and operations manager of Talk America Radio. It is with great pride that I offer you this 24/7 stream of some of the finest talk radio programming in the country, but I need your support. We are a listener-supported network. That means we need your help to continue to offer the quality programming you're hearing right now. If you're able, please visit talkamericaradio.us and click the Support Us button. Your donation will go a long way in helping us continue to share the American voice. Thank you.
This is Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience. When I'm not debating with Donna Fiducia about politics, I listen to Cowboy Logic Radio. Why, you ask? Because outside of my blog, founderscode.com, and my own radio show, the Denise Simon Experience, Cowboy Logic is by far the most entertaining and informative radio show on planet Earth. Plus, Don makes me feel guilty if I don't listen to his radio show every week.
Hi, this is Donna Fiducia, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio. For 28 years, I was in the mainstream media, most recently as an anchor at the Fox News Channel. No more. Ladies and gentlemen, the mainstream media has completely failed the American people. Radio networks like Talk America Radio will not fail you. Radio shows like Cowboy Logic Radio will not fail you. Check out the entire roster of over 60 weekly radio shows by visiting talkamericaradio.us. That's talkamericaradio.us.
TalkAmericaRadio.us.
This is Denise Simon. 18 hours a day, I live in a world as an intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence. What I find is reprehensible. What I find is terrifying. What I find is treasonous. 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 The mainstream media has completely failed the American people. 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 Join me for the Denise Simon Experience every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Drive Time SITREP. Denise Simon has just spent 3 minutes laughing at me, not with me, but at me, for what I did during that first segment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Drive Time Situation Report. We are going to get after it. The next 26 minutes are going to be no nonsense, getting down to the weeds, getting into the weeds with this SITREP. Denise, take it away.
All right, so where we are now is we're not completely convinced that little Miss Christina, Dr. Ford, is actually going to show up. They're pushing back kind of hard. She's made all these stipulations, of which Grassley has been over backwards to accommodate. But it is, so far, it's not in a big, huge room. It's in a small, intimate room. And it is, in fact, an open session. Now, what is particularly interesting is that the Judiciary Committee, the Republicans, hired a litigator. Appears to be female, that will be asking all the questions. Every senator can ask a question, but they only get 5 minutes. Some of them are planning to defer their time to this litigator, female to female. If they do want to ask a question, they can, but they have a 5-minute limit. So now the Democrats are freaked out because they don't know the name. And quite frankly, I don't care if they know the name or not. If she doesn't show, oh well. The second accuser, little Miss Deborah Ramirez, is not testifying. She's not going to do it. Late this afternoon, it was announced that the Senate Judiciary Committee is in fact going to take the vote on Friday morning. Period. Regardless of what happens on Thursday. And then after that, it goes to the full House. The full Senate. So,
what do you think Jeff Flake is going to do?
Well,
hey, by the way, before you answer that, timestamp this show again, because for the listeners that are listening to this the first time during the week, it is now Wednesday night, at about 9:30 p.m.
Okay,
Eastern.
so yeah, right now it's 9:11 p.m. Eastern Daylight on the 25th of September. So
Tuesday night. Tuesday night, ladies and
Tuesday
gentlemen.
night, right?
Okay.
And so
Now, what about Jeff Flake?
We don't have a handle on Jeff Flake. It looks like Lisa Murkowski wants to get this thing over with, so she's probably a good vote for Kavanaugh. And it appears, from all intents and purposes, Susan Collins is too. So I don't think that we're going to have to worry about anybody but maybe Jeff Flake. We can lose one, but we can't lose more. And so if we lose Flake,
How confident are you in Collins and what's her name?
Well, from what I can tell, that have, because they have been taking those temperatures here for the last 2 days, it appears that they are okay, because the Republicans have been more than accommodating, more than generous, more than gracious, more than anything, in order to make this happen. And I think that probably all of Washington, D.C. has taken a real hard look. There's probably more conversation going on about other things we don't necessarily know about what the Democrats have done, that are not getting out there in the media. But I can tell you, they're just purely not happy at all with how Dianne Feinstein has handled this whole thing. She's the cause of it all.
The Democrats are not happy about it?
There seem to be a few that they're a little on the embarrassed side about it. They're very measured.
If they had souls, they would be embarrassed.
Indeed.
All right, so you've got a couple of the Democrats that are pissed off with Feinstein for this little, 11th hour stunt that she pulled. What's the overall tone of the Republicans toward Feinstein? Are they being vocal about it, or do they really not need to be? Because quite frankly, she looks like an idiot.
Yeah, a couple of them are vocal. The rest of them are just kind of like, shame on you. And they just kind of leave it at that. But they don't even have to mention her name. And you automatically know, or for anybody that's paying attention, you automatically know that
she owns it.
That she owns it, that she held the document for 6 weeks, of which I would say, they keep demanding that we have this FBI report. This FBI investigation. Well, if she hadn't held it, they could have had it, couldn't they? If they really wanted one, and demanded one.
Yeah, if they want to change the role of the FBI.
And well, indeed. But see, this thing, interestingly enough, in this particular case, it wouldn't necessarily have had to be the FBI. It could have been, investigators, law enforcement investigators in Maryland, because Maryland does not have a statute of limitations on sexual assault.
Gotcha. Okay.
But now we have a new twist, and this new twist,
lovely.
Yep. And I want you to be prepared for it, because we may end up with somebody like a Kamala Harris that, is going to throw this out, or a Kirsten Gillibrand that'll throw this out. And that is that Brett Kavanaugh could be a war criminal.
Why? I was totally not ready for that.
Understood. Well, the reason is, and so I spent a lot of time this afternoon over at the George W. Bush Library at Southern Methodist University. And we can't forget that Brett Kavanaugh was one of several White House lawyers in the White House Council. And there are, interestingly enough, 20 boxes, at least 20 boxes, in one particular section that are assigned to Brett Kavanaugh. And I'll just give you for instance. Box 1 has to deal with victims' compensatory funds regulation. So I would say it would be victims of the attack of 9/11. I don't know that for sure, but it looks like that might be it. Box 2 has to do with airline insurance, airline relief, airline tort, airline victims claims processing. See where I'm going with that? Box 3 has to do with the Algiers Accord. I don't know anything about the Algiers Accord. I'm going to have to go look at it. And the anti-terrorism legislation. Box 4 has to do with aviation, civil liabilities, injuries from aircraft, and basic laws and authorities from what was in National Archives on previous plane crashes. Box 5 has to do with Guide to Law and Practice. Box 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 all have to do with Janice Brown, and I did not have the time to go see who Janice Brown is, but that's an awful lot of stuff there for Janice Brown. Now, this Janice Brown may have been a judge because it has a lot of LexisNexis reports in it. Let's see here. Yeah, she was the U.S. Appeals Court for the District of Columbia for D.C. Okay, box 12 is has to deal with pardons. It has to deal with circuit courts, class action reform, and a lot of things when it comes to a committee on government reform and oversight of presidential pardons. And then there was an awful lot of work that apparently Kavanaugh did, interestingly enough, on the debt ceiling, the declaration of war, Derek Swearington, I don't know who that is because apparently this Derek Swearington was suing George Bush. There was another box that was full of organized crime and racketeering.
All right, hold on a second. Now you're losing me. When we were on box 1 and 2 and you said, you see where I'm going with this? I went, yeah, because I thought I did. Now I'm going...
Okay,
what's this
but
got to do with being a war criminal?
Okay, because I can tell that, like box 22, for instance, had to do with the Office of Homeland Security. We didn't have a Homeland Security at the time. We had an Office of Homeland Security. The point of all this is that Brett Kavanaugh, when he was White House counsel, or one of White House counsel in the Bush administration, the Bush White House.
Hold on. Stop. Let me take a guess. Was Brett Kavanaugh by any chance one of the White House lawyers that discussed and helped draft the legalities for the enhanced interrogation program?
I don't see that, no.
Okay. I thought that's where you were going with this.
No, what I was doing was saying on War Powers Act and anti-terrorism legislation, which would lead up to the Patriot Act. You see what I'm saying? The point of it is, this is a man who has, this is not a new rodeo for him. In order to be in very contentious legal debates, because his experience and his fingerprints go through an awful lot of things. Anti-terrorism legislation, finding judges, anti-lobbying acts, aircraft legislation and what their liabilities were, who's going to pay, victims' compensation funds. So
well, I don't, quite frankly, I don't find any problem with that. Now, I'm sure Kamala Harris might, like you said.
Well, there's where I'm going.
There's anything that she and I would ever agree on.
Well, that's really where I'm going. I'm just putting it out there that there are some that are already saying, because of, I'm sure they visited the same sites that I did and came across the same thing I did, that he is I mean, because a lot of people say that George Bush was a war criminal. Well, his lawyers then would be too, correct?
Yeah, but you know what? That's not going to stick. Kamala Harris is losing credibility as fast as, I'm trying to think of somebody losing their hair, and I can't think of anybody for an analogy.
The point being that they're going to, it's another piece of paper on their desk that they may pull out and use.
Gotcha. All right, hang tight with me here, Denise. I've got red lights flashing. Looks like an ambulance coming up behind me, so I'm going to take it over here and let this guy pass. You guys may hear this. Looks like a fire truck. There you go. I'll open the window. You can hear that a little bit. Isn't that fascinating? There's not another radio show that's out that will have a passing fire truck while broadcasting. Now, Mark Levin has barking dogs, but I've got sirens and a fire truck. All seems to be okay, though, Denise. Hey, we got about 11 minutes. Can we move away from Kavanaugh unless there's something else really that you want to talk about on this? Because there's two other things I want to ask you about.
Okay, go ahead.
Number one, Ted Cruz being run out of a restaurant. I'm getting a little tired of this.
I will tell you that this guy handled himself magnificently. He couldn't have been more gracious, more gentlemanly than he was. I mean, it was really remarkable. But you know, when you are confronted by a mob, you don't know who in that mob might pull out tear gas, might pull out a taser, might pull out a weapon, a knife, or any of that. And I would say, somebody said, well, you know, these legislators should have bodyguards. No, or meaning Secret Service. No. I think it's time that the Department of Homeland Security declare these groups are domestic terror organizations.
Could not agree with you more. I'm waiting for it. I feel like this is something that should have already been done. I'm surprised. And maybe after the midterms, Trump's going to start pushing some of this stuff and moving at light speed as if he already isn't. But then we're going to start seeing some heads roll, and we're going to start seeing people labeled as domestic terrorists that need to be. I could not agree with you more on that. And I agree with you also that Ted Cruz handled himself with absolute dignity, despite the vile behavior that was being dished out to he and his wife. I mean, it's appalling behavior. But then again, Denise, like I've said many times, I at this point don't even associate, I can't even recognize the far left as American citizens like the rest of us. They're some foreign agent. And, you know, I'm not able to even really wrap my head around them because they're so unhinged. Did you by any chance today see Trump's speech at the United Nations?
I only heard some snippets of it. So, I mean, I can't really speak to the spirit of the whole speech, except to say that I've seen some very positive things. Two areas in particular that did take some real attention and partially perhaps some criticism was the fact that he is going to protect and will protect American sovereignty. That we are not going to defer any power to any outside influence. The other piece was Iran. And on Iran, he just laid it out there in no uncertain terms I was really quite gratified at what he said about Iran. Now, of course, Iran gets the last word, and they did. But I think that he did a very good job. A little out of his element, I think. I don't know who wrote the speech. I'd be very interested to know who wrote the speech. But I think it was well done.
I listened to the entire thing. I watched very little of it because I had it playing in the background. But I listened to the entire speech. There's one other moment that I felt was extremely important, and I'm surprised you haven't seen some criticism about it. And that is the smackdown that he gave Germany. I thought that was
I did not hear anything about it.
Yep. Well, it had to do with their oil from Russia. Now, one thing that I did notice, and I wish that he was better with a teleprompter, because, you know, when you see Trump off script at the rallies,
it's mad. Yeah.
It's just classic Trump. And I love it. I absolutely love it. When the New Yorker comes at him, when the I don't give a damn comes out of him, I love that. And when he's in that environment in front of the UN and he's reading the teleprompters, there's only a couple of times where he came off script very, very briefly.
Yeah, I saw that.
But that's the one thing about Trump giving speeches that I don't like, is the damn teleprompter, and how it's like he's trying to speak with, you know, he's trying to fight with both hands tied behind his back. And he's basically bobbing and weaving. But I thought overall, from listening to that speech, that it was a wonderful speech, and screw anybody that has a problem with American exceptionalism, American patriotism, American sovereignty, and the fact that we have a president right now that really is devoting his efforts and his DNA to protecting and elevating the American people first. And I'm digging it, Denise. I'm really digging it.
Well, when it comes to that, I have a little bit different kind of take on that. And here's what I think that the Democrats don't understand. We sat back for 8 years under the Obama administration, and every single day we took another dagger. I think it started off with being called brown shirts, and then you didn't build that, and then regulations, and then, you know, all these other kinds of things that, you know, just kept getting piled on and piled. So the American people were really beat down. And I would say that even of the Democrats, although I don't believe they would admit it. And if for nothing else, when Trump speaks about America first and exceptionalism, and we've taken away these regulations. He took away the individual mandate. You know, a couple of these other things that are happening, and especially the tax reform, we're beginning to have some of that weight taken off of our shoulders. And all of a sudden, we are not as brown shirt, second class people as we were told we were for 8 years.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But I love what he's doing just as much as I love the way Ted Cruz behaved last night.
Yeah, I was.
All right, you got about 3 minutes. I want to very quickly let everybody know about your fabulous website. Ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to go visit and bookmark Denise's website. The address, the URL is founderscode.com. Founderscode.com. Check it out. She's got wonderful articles. Sign up to get her newsletter. Denise, you got about 2 minutes and 30 seconds for one last thought.
One last thought is this, and I wrote about it, so it is on my website at founderscode.com, and that is that we had some number cruncher experts from MIT and Yale that did a very long, very laborious, essentially number crunching scientific study. And it got almost no press, except Fox and Friends gave it a little bit this morning because they had the two guys on there. There is a minimum of 22.1 million illegals in the United States. A minimum.
I saw that. Yep.
It could be as high as 29 million. That changes the equation for the immigration condition that we are in. And I would also say, as a question to any listeners out there, how many U.S. representatives, congresspeople, are representing districts that are essentially all illegals or foreign nationals? 10, 20,
Denise,
40?
Then how quick are you able to pull up a calculator?
Pretty quick, I think.
All right. Population in the United States, approximately 330 million, right?
Correct.
Okay. What percentage of 330 million is 22 or 29 million? Just shy of 10%, right? Well, I'm going to do a little quick math. I'm going to guess it's about 8%.
Correct.
8%? Okay. Any of our black Americans that are listening, black Americans represent 13.7%, 13.8% of that 330 million. You've had a president for the past 8 years. We've had a president for the past 8 years that has allowed this type of a thing to foment, expand, and happen. We've got almost, I'm going to say 2/3 of the population that is represented by black Americans that is now represented by illegal aliens. Think about that. Think about that. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Drive Time Sit Rep. We're out of time for this week. Please check out Denise Simon's show Thursday night, 9 p.m. on whatever network or radio station you are listening to this show on, The Denise Simon Experience. Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, you can check me out along with the beautiful Donna Fiducia on our show, Cowboy Logic Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, we do this for one reason, you. And we sure do appreciate you being here with us and giving us 1 hour of your time. Denise, take us home.
God bless America. Thanks for being with us.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.